Welcome again to the S.E.M podcast. Jack and Zach are here once again, and tonight we're joined by the famous Brady Casaday. Brady, how are you, brother?
I'm doing really well. How are you two?
We're doing great. I'll speak for Jack a little bit, I guess.
Yeah.
What part of the world are you calling from tonight?
I am in St. George, Utah. It's just for those of you that don't know. I mean, mostly everyone is from Utah that listens to this, but we're an hour and a half outside of Las Vegas, basically.
I can tell you right now, Brady, not everyone in Utah is listening to this. We're international, that's for sure.
We got a global audience.
That's right. Well, good. Well, you've listened to the podcast. Just to remind you, we'll talk your run up to your mission call and your reaction to going to Scotland. Then we'll jump over the mission, talk about life since you've been home, and then we'll go back through the mission and reminisce. So I'll turn the time to you, Brady.
Yeah. No, it's great. I would say that I kind of had a different path compared to a lot of other people. Living and growing up in Sandy, as you know, Zach, because we grew up basically in the same neighborhood.
Yeah.
Grew up in like a very LDS family, but there's no expectations for me to go out on a mission or anything like that. And so it was kind of one of those decisions that my dad was basically like, look, man, you got nothing else going on. Like, you graduated from high school. You aren't planning to go to college right now. Like, what are you going to do with your life? And I was like, yeah, that's a good point. So anyways, that was like the main driver behind going, which, like, zero regrets, because it was amazing. But I was also kind of this wild child in high school, in all the wrong ways. Let your mind wander there a little bit. But I remember, like, the turning point for me and like actually getting ready for the mission and everything. I was like going out to a party or something. My dad was just like, hey, he put his hands on my shoulders, like, hey, you're a really good kid. I just want to let you know that. And I was like, dang it. So now I got to be good. That was it's so silly, but that was the turning point. And I was like, okay, it's time to go on a mission. So I went out May 2006 to May 2008. I was in one of those weird visa times where we couldn't get the full visa, so I had a really, really short stint in the mission home. So that was basically before. Oh, and let me back up too. And everyone that is listening to this that I served with for the first part of my mission, they'll appreciate this. But I actually 2 months before I left on my mission, I was with my girlfriend at the time. We were snowboarding. I was trying to impress her. So I came off this big jump. I landed on my feet, but I overshot the landing and I ended up landing on flat ground by like 50 feet up in the air. So I shattered my back, and I basically wore like this big back brace into the mission. It was like a big turtle shell. So into the mission home, the first like 3 weeks of my mission, totally hit it from the mission office, because I was like, I don't want to not go, It was fantastic. And it was like, it was a hard shell. And so I remember like, God, what's the name? Payne Creddy or
Creighton Petty.
Yeah. I can't remember, but we would like put it on and I'd sit there and stab him with a knife and he wouldn't feel it. So anyways, that's a super random thing. But coming off the mission, end of 2008, which, by the way, that whole thing with trying to impress a girl, it worked, because she actually waited for me the whole mission. I ended up marrying her 8 months after getting home from a mission.
Nice.
We're married today. Yeah, so it totally worked, and it was worth some of the pain, I guess.
Broke your back for a girl.
Yeah, I know. But that's what you have to do sometimes. So anyways, got back. We got married 8 months later. We have 3 kids, 3 boys. And it's funny because I don't keep up with a ton of people from the mission, but I was listening to Ren Hardy's yesterday. I noticed that he had 3 boys as well. And knowing how he was on the mission, I'm sure that they are just absolutely wild like my kids are. But yeah, no, it's good. 3 boys, oldest is 9, and then 7 and 3. Yeah. And what else do you want to know? Love the mountain bike.
Tell us,
taking
tell
a
us, tell us about your journey. You went to Utah State, and what do you do for work?
Yeah, so went to Utah State. I took the road less traveled there, where I actually did the extension program in Salt Lake City.
Oh, nice.
I couldn't imagine living up in Logan for that long. So that was, there's no way they were going to get me up there for longer than 3 days for graduation or whatever, or a football game. So did that, graduated there. I've been in software for basically my entire career. I started off, as a sales rep, moved over to self-management. Over the last little bit, though, 2 years or so, I've actually moved into sales enablement, which is basically I get to teach people how to do sales, and at a company called Pluralsight. And man, I love it. I always prided myself on the mission of being really good at teaching people, and I wanted to come home and like become a teacher, but I wasn't like set in stone with teacher salaries or anything like that. But anyways, moving over here where I get to teach people all day long, and practice that skill and everything like that. So it's been great. I love it.
That's awesome. Cool for you.
Yeah, it's fun.
Awesome. Well, so Brady, now take us back to May of 2006 and your experience in the MTC, or you can skip over that and go straight to the mission home and in Edinburgh. But take us back then.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, did everybody here that we've interviewed so far did they all have this similar experience where they went to the MTC in Preston or Preston?
Yeah. It was pretty common. I think there's only one person we've interviewed that was in Provo for a short stint due to some other technicalities, John O'Brien. So, but beyond that, everybody else went to the Preston MTC.
Okay. Yeah. So, and you both know then, like that whole experience was wild. I grew up in a family where, yes, LDS, but my mom definitely was not. And she could not understand why I was getting on this airplane to leave her for 2 years. But, it's like the traditional, like I'm at the airport and she's bawling and I'm just like, I don't know what I'm doing, But anyways, fast forward, get to the MTC, after a very uncomfortable plane ride with my giant back brace on, trying to sit straight up in seats and whatnot.
I can't believe you did that.
I know. I didn't want to delay it at all, so I had to do what I had to do, But yeah, I was one of those missionaries that we were there for. I think it had to be no more than 10 days, but I want to say it was actually shorter than that.
I think Quinn Coford said that it was like 2 weeks at that point, so it was probably by 14 days. I think, if I remember right.
Yeah, it's all a big blur at this point. But yeah, MTC was great. We I was in the same room as Quinn Coford, Dallin Ray, Devin Goodwin, which is a good group. I didn't know what I was doing there. I got there. I didn't read the Book of Mormon, like a lick of it, before I went out, or the Bible or anything like that. And so I remember just thinking, like, man, what the hell am I doing? There's no way that I should be here doing this. I remember standing at like the MTC president's door at like 2:00 in the morning one night. And I was like going to knock on it and be like, dude, just send me home. I didn't end up doing it, obviously, made it out, but it was, I always tell people the MTC was by far the worst experience I've had. But I got to meet some of my best friends, and I did meet this guy that was going to South London or something from Blanding, Utah. And he had this crazy story that I tell everyone, that he was totally redneck, trying to chase a rabbit, and went to irrigation pipe. He lifted up the irrigation pipe. It got struck by lightning and his big toe got shot off. And he showed us it is a real thing.
Oh my gosh.
On that story, because it's wild. So there you go.
What are the chances?
That is wild.
Goodness.
Yeah. That's so fun. So yeah, okay. Then first area, I said, in fact, I took notes because I had to remember all this stuff. I started with David Stainton.
Oh yeah.
Has he been on here yet?
No.
Okay.
If you're in contact with him, we would love you to encourage him because he has sent me a message and said just flat no. But I'd love to have Dave on for sure.
Yeah, we'll see what we can do. I'm a hired sales trainer, so I'm pretty good at convincing people.
There you go.
So he was awesome, great trainer, just a really hard worker. He's just on the ball all the time, and we woke up every morning and worked out for half hour, which was just terrible for me at the time. And we were in Leith, and Leith had just an awful apartment at the time. And I remember thinking, like, if this is how it's going to be the entire time, I'm just going to go home. But it was fine. But there's only a bath. There's no shower or anything like that in that Leith apartment.
Wait, hang on. You didn't have a shower?
No.
What?
It was that really terrible, awful, like green-looking bathtub.
Oh my gosh! No one else has mentioned that. I'm curious to know how long that flat lasted, because no one else has said that there was not a shower in the Leith flat. That's crazy.
That was the worst one. That was the worst one that I stayed in, and it really like set the standard and precedence for the rest of the mission, because I literally thought that like I would be living in this terrible situation, which obviously wasn't true. But
oh man, no wonder you wanted to go home.
It took a lot of convincing to stay there. No, but that was a lot of fun. Obviously, as you two know, that the starting mission is just wild. And it's just like a whirlwind of different feelings and emotions. And but we had a lot of fun. And that was back before President Fredericks came, and we were just knocking doors all day, every day. And it was tough. But I mean, Satan was really good at just keeping me on track and making sure that we were getting stuff done. So after 6 weeks, we just had one transfer together. I then had Elder McDonald, and I can't even remember his first name. He was from Vegas.
Cameron,
that's right. Yeah, he was a good dude. He's pretty dang funny too. Hardworking missionary. But again, we spent 6 weeks together. And I want to say that he was pretty close to finishing, and
he probably was at that point in time.
Yeah, he was a good guy though. I really liked him. In fact, I like vaguely remember keeping in touch with him after I got home, but it wasn't too long. I'd love to find him again. In fact, have you had him on here?
No, and I've been trying to get in touch with him because I stirred around McDonald for quite a bit of my mission, and just a good dude. He just makes me laugh and smile just thinking about the good times we had with him. So I'd love to get in touch with him. So if anybody's listening that has contact information for Cameron McDonald, please let us know, because he's not on social media and I don't have any idea of what part of the world he's living in. So that'd be interesting to find out where he's at.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I don't know. I'll see what I can find, but I haven't talked to him for years either. So, okay. So after that, I was only in Edinburgh for 3 months, and then moved to Glasgow, and with a few missionaries there. The first one was Mark Noble. So he came out a transfer after me. He was great. He was a ginger fella. And, we had a lot of fun. We were in the Springborg ward, which is just I mean, I guess all of Glasgow is a pretty terrible part of town, but, but we had fun, but man, it was frightening. Like we were, I think, a mile and a half away from Parkhead, Stadium or whatever it's called, where Celtics play. There's, like a week after we got there, we ended up getting robbed. Someone broke into our flat and stole a bunch of stuff. This was back in the day when we had the digital cameras, and it was like brand new. My dad sent it to me, and it was just gone. And so I
no.
For my mission, because after that I'm like, I'm giving up. I'm not even gonna try taking pictures.
Oh,
yeah. And Jack, by the way, where'd you get that sweet mug? I think it's awesome.
Christmas present from my wife.
What a good wife.
We'll let you know when we get in the merch game here.
Please do. Please do. I noticed that your wife didn't get Zach one, though. That's a disappointment.
She doesn't love me as much as she loves
He went
Jack.
to Utah.
Love it.
It's all good. She's got me on the white elephant gift this year.
Okay. That's so you guys live an hour apart, but that's cute. You guys hang out and stuff.
Yeah, we need to do it more.
Well, yeah, and we'll get to this, but I don't talk to. I mean, there's a few people like I'll talk to Chad Wilcoxon. I don't know if you remember him. Love Chad, but we'll text like once a year, and it'll be amazing. We'll make plans to hang out, and then nothing, and it's both of our fault. But like outside of that, Quinn Cofer and I are good buddies, and that's it. Apparently, Brady has too, because now we're neighbors. So, it's cool. But yeah, like in Glasgow, I feel like I haven't represented Scotland well enough, but Glasgow was not a great place. So we got robbed. 3 weeks after that, we're walking down the street and this guy was like sitting over this woman, basically making her cry. And so I went up there and pushed him, and then he punched me in the face, and we ran off really quick. So my experience in Glasgow was not great. It wasn't the best place in the world. One of my favorite parts, though, was me and Garrett McLeod anytime we'd get together, we'd go on the high street and we'd pretend that we were race cars. We'd whiz bypass people and be like, I don't know why I remember that so much, but it was like a highlight of my time in Glasgow. Person like, and he'd be taking me, and it's so
I know Garrett's listening, so definitely shout him out. That's amazing.
Yeah, I don't even. It's so funny that what people remember and what some people don't. But yeah, and honestly, Glasgow kind of stressed me out. I broke out in like these wicked bad eczema spots all over my body. And so there were weeks that I was like wrapped up in bandages because I just couldn't handle the stress of it, apparently.
From turtle shell to mummy. Huh?
Yeah, no, I was a mess, man. I don't know what the
Wow.
Yeah, Glasgow, great place. Yeah, but I love Springboig. I can't even remember the bishop's name there, but he was
Pataringa.
Yes, Pataringa, and his son PJ. He was an odd fella, but he was nice.
Yep, I remember.
Yeah, that's a cool award. And then Mary McCollin,
Sister M.
Yeah, Sister M. She actually came to Utah for my wedding, which just to be clear, I didn't invite her, but she kind of invited herself. But she was nice. A Scottish woman that just stunk up my parents' bathroom a whole lot, but she was good. She liked her. Anyway, sorry.
Oh goodness, that's amazing.
She was really nice. So I was only there for I think 2 transfers. It's kind of a blur, honestly. But then after that, I went to Dundee, and I was in Dundee for most of my mission. And I think it's in the Bingham ward. I can't remember the names.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, okay.
Bingham Terrace.
Yeah. Beautiful ward house. I mean, looked over, that river there in front of whatever that river was. No, I should have followed up on some of the names of these places, but yeah, that's going to be through this whole conversation.
That's what we're here for. We're a sounding board for you, Brady.
Perfect. So moving to Dundee was really interesting. I told you too that I still keep in contact with Quinn Coford a lot, and I got the call to be transferred up to Dundee to serve with Quinn Coford. And honestly, I thought it was a freaking joke because we were like best buds. We wrote each other letters all the time. Every time we'd be at zone concerts or whatever, we were just hanging out. And man, I'll tell you what, like the first few weeks, like we kind of dinked off a little bit, and I hate to say that, but Quinn will attest to it. Like, it's like, man, we got two best friends with each other all day, every day. Like Garrett McLeod was there, James McKay was there, and we just like we slacked off. And then I remember our zone leader was Jonathan DePold, who was the most intense man in the world, but also one of the nicest guys ever. But he really like came after us about, you know, being a little bit more serious. And then what we decided to do was take the joke a little bit further. And so we showed up to like a district meeting and just were like being uber annoying about being perfect. And then he called us out even more. But it's kind of this weird situation at that point where we decided like, man, we really needed to do this. Like we're only here for 2 years. Like we came in for a reason. And after that, we slayed it. Like we had our lessons down pat. You know, our pitch was perfect, if you will. And we just, I mean, at one time we had like 13 people committed to be baptized. It was crazy. And we just worked so hard, but we also had like so much fun. You know, we'd spend whole days just, you know, doing dumb stuff like talking about Dragon Ball Z, even though we knew nothing about, or, you know, we would like slur our words on buses and stuff. I don't know, really dumb stuff that you do as a missionary because you got nothing else going on. I do remember this one guy, and I hope that someone will remember him besides Quinn Cofer and I, but there's this guy named John Scogey, but super inactive member. He would always have missionaries over to like have lunch and stuff. But he always complained like he was too sick and too weak to go to church. But one day we're walking down the high street in Dundee and we saw old Scroggy there, and he had this giant table on his back that he was carrying across the high street back to his house. And we just stopped seeing him after that because I'm like, dude, you're well enough to carry this giant freaking table over to you. It had like a big lion underneath it. And it's a glass and he just like carried it over. It was terrible. So anyways, but no, my time with Quinn and he's my boy. Like we chat all the time and we had so much success and we, I mean, after that little stint for the first couple of weeks, we really like shaped up and figured things out and you know, probably the best time of my mission was during that few weeks. And I think we were together for 6 months. I mean,
nice.
For a while. Yeah. But after he left, I ended up with a missionary named Ryan Gustafson. I didn't see him on the list of people on that have been interviewed.
I know Ryan, and I've reached out to him, and he hasn't responded to me. So I'm gonna call you out right now, Ryan. If you're listening to this podcast, please respond to my messages, or I'll keep hounding you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, he was really cool. He was. I remember he was from California. I thought that he was pretty cool because he's from California. You know, always saying emo music, which I can appreciate because, you know, growing up and going to school 2005 that was our world basically.
Yep.
And he was always singing, like wherever we'd go, whatever we do, he was always singing. And it's a good dude though. Good dude. I was with him for a couple months or 2 transfers, and then we got a missionary to train, and Steve Gardner. And he was a solid guy as well. I don't know. I haven't talked to Steve since like a year after we got home from our mission, but he was a really good missionary and really solid. But I do remember playing pranks on him at the very beginning that we would talk about not having time to pray, you know, as we left the apartment. So we wrote down in my little journal, like numbers that we would say to correspond with what we'd want to say in our prayer. And so it'd be like 1 would be like, keep us safe. 2 would be like, let's have success today. And so we did this thing where we'd be like, all right, we'd go to the door, we'd kneel down and we'd pray, but we'd be like, dear Heavenly Father, 1, 2, 5, 10, amen. And so that was like the whole thing. And, you know, and it got to the point where we got him to do it like at a member's house, which is kind of like hazy, you know, seems a little inappropriate now, but at the time it was hilarious. It's cool.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah, love my time in Dundee though. I honestly, it's second home to me. Made some really, really good friends there. The May family, which is, we baptized a few people in the May family. One of the daughters came out to hang out with us 5-6 years ago, and I've tried to keep in contact with them, but I'm not really on social media, so it's people don't respond to emails the way that they used to, back like we were in 2005 or whatever. So, but seriously, just an amazing place. And, my parents actually had an opportunity to go back there, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago. And they totally remember who I was. They went to the old ward and got to meet some of the people that I taught and whatnot. So really neat. Love it. Love
That's
it.
cool. Love
Have you two been back at all?
I went back pretty quick after my mission. So I went back, I got home January of 07 and then went back in August of that same year. But I have not been back since then. And so it's on my very high priority list.
Yeah. Well, what about you, Jack?
Yeah. 2011, just before my first was born, we made it back.
Okay.
So next time will be the whole family, hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm dying to go back. It's just, I mean, and you two know that it's just, once you start having kids, it's impossible. And especially like trying to think about leaving my kids for 2 years because I'm selfish and I don't want to take them, and leaving them for 2 weeks to go on this trip is just astronomical costs in babysitters. And
astronomical cost either way, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's either we take them and not have as much fun and pay for them to be there, or we pay for babysitters and they cost an arm and a leg to keep them there. So yeah, one day we'll make it back and have a lot of fun revisiting some of those old people. Yeah. Cool. And then let's see, I ended up in Aberdeen. I served with Ren Hardy I became a zone leader, moved to Aberdeen, served with Ren Hardy, which is always a treat. We worked extremely hard. And I want to say that me and Jeremiah Johnson were the ones that, what do you call it? Killed him. Is that what they say? I don't even know.
Killed him off.
Yeah, killed him off. Yeah. I want to say that we did that. I can't remember, but I remember it was like at the very end of his mission, he was trying really hard to get in super good shape. And so like, I only ate what he ate. And it was like, every single morning it was oatmeal. And then we would cook a hard boiled or just an egg and put it on top of the oatmeal after we're done eating it. I don't know why that's such a specific memory, but we did it every single time. So, but no, Aberdeen was cool. I wasn't there very long, but I do remember it just being like dark and gloomy. I don't know if either of you served in Aberdeen, but man, when the sun was out, it was the most beautiful place on earth. But most of the time, it wasn't.
Very gray.
Very gray. Yeah.
That's why they call it the Granite City, right?
Yep.
I mean, the gray sky, the gray buildings, the gray sidewalk, the gray cobblestone roads, everything is gray. It's just what it is.
Yeah, that was crazy. I don't know. I love my time there. It was just so dark and gloomy all the time. But I mean, there's some really good people there. There was this, and again, if anybody was in Aberdeen, they would remember this woman. She was really old. I can't remember how old she was, but I know that she had like these crazy stories from being a kid during World War II and having to hide in the bomb shelters when the Germans would come over and bomb and everything. But what I do remember is like we would eat at her house every single week, and she would give us like 20 quid to go down and buy some fish and chips from like the local shop, and then she would make us this cake. But it was like this well-known secret amongst all the missionaries to not actually eat the cake because it's disgusting. And so it was the same process. Like she would come in, she'd bring the cake, and it was like full of custard and like half water. And then she would leave, and we would dump it into like our bags. And then when she'd come back in the room, we'd be like, "Man, that's delicious," you know. And it was like the tradition. Like Ren taught me that, and then I passed it on to Jeremiah Johnson, and I hope that he kept it up, because here's the thing. But the nicest lady ever, you know.
Sister Mitchell.
Was that her name?
Yeah, older lady.
Yes.
Did you have missionary pie?
Maybe
Shepherd's pie with like spaghettios and baked beans and Brussels sprouts and every. Yeah, I have a picture of it. I'll send it to you. You'll get a kick out of it. Sister Mitchell was amazing. I loved dinners at her house.
Yeah, and she had the craziest stories about World War II, and it just, I don't know, just incredible. That is so funny. Yeah, I was racking my brain trying to think of her name. Man, anyways.
I was in the Aberdeen Zone Leader area for 6 months, so I did that for 6 months.
Did you really?
Oh yeah, I mean, it was like traditional Scottish something one week. Then you had missionary pie the next week, and then she'd give you money for the fish shop for the go and get fish and chips. And it was a 3-week rotation, so you got that twice transfer, and I did that 4 times. So, but man, I had a great relationship with her, and
she's amazing.
She's just a top-notch individual and so giving. She just wanted to spend time with us and make sure that we were okay. You know, being missionaries in a foreign land, it's just a different experience. So she was wonderful. I loved Sister Mitchell.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing that I loved about being in Scotland, is that all the members were just incredible people. You know, and I never had like one sour moment with any mission or with any members of the church there. I'm sure part of that is because I'm a very like low key person, but at the same time, like they're all wonderful. And to your point, Zach, like everyone was just so incredibly willing to just help out missionaries as much as they could, and it was a really neat experience. Because like missionaries will knock on our door and stuff here, and I'll usually just give them like $20 and send them on their way. Yeah, and I don't spend any time with them, and I kind of wish that I would learn from some of these other members that we were, in these wards of, because they were just wonderful people and they wanted to help out as much as possible. So, yeah, I don't know. There's my soapbox for the day. Anyway, so Jeremiah Johnson, just a solid guy. I think we only served together for 1 transfer, maybe 2. But man, I just remember having so much fun with him. We were incredibly hardworking. We carried on the work really well. I remember doing some of those, and I heard a few missionaries talk about this, but the hammer time stuff, like we'd go into missionaries' houses and we'd like clean things out, and we'd sit down and talk to them about how they shouldn't have those things. And I just remember, I can't even remember the missionaries' names, and I wouldn't even mention their names because it was a weird interaction. But it seemed like they wanted to punch us because we came in there and they had like weird stuff like Celine Dion CDs and stuff, and so we took it all, and like you could see their fists, like they were holding their fist. And Jeremiah Johnson just like had the coolest look on his face, just a solid dude. So anyways, that was really cool. I mean, some other things there, like, going to Inverness and visiting the missionaries there, beautiful place. I don't know if either of you two got to go up there.
I did.
Okay.
I can't speak to Jack. Nope.
No. Yeah, cool place, and I don't know. Just it's always one of the things when I tell people that I went to Scotland on mission, they're like, "Oh, did you see Nessie?" That's always a thing. I'm like, no, but I did drink the water from Loch Ness, which is kind of, you did the same thing, yeah.
Oh heck yeah!
Thing that the missionaries do, yeah.
I think Peacock and I started that.
No kidding. Okay.
Yeah, we
How
were
about-
we were there one exchange day, and I said, "Hey, we should probably just drink the water in case there's like magical properties in it." And Peacock's like, "Yeah, we probably could have died, but we're missionaries. We were protected, so it was the right time to drink the water of Loch Ness." So funny.
wait, is Peacock the one? He was like he was he ended up being like a chaplain or something.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I think he's the one that told me to drink the water from Loch Ness.
Well, he went up to Inverness towards the end of his mission, so he was probably up there. I can see that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, no, I loved it up there. I remember every P day we were like out just exploring the countryside, and I found it like a true love. One of my big passions is mountain biking, and I found true love of mountain biking by going through the highlands up there, because there just seemed to be like these world-class tracks everywhere up there, and everyone was really big into it. And I don't know, beautiful place. It just, you watch like Lord of the Rings here, like this is Scotland. I mean, this is literally what people imagine like Middle Earth would be.
Oh, yeah.
So I do remember driving through like the highlands. I don't know if either of you had the pleasure of either serving with or driving with Elder Stringfellow, but he was a paraglider. And we were like going through the highlands going like 120 miles an hour. And it's just like, he was totally fine doing it, but it was a lot of fun. It seemed dangerous now. Maybe I'm just thinking that because I'm a parent and I'm like, if I see my kids going that fast, I'm going to freaking kill them, But at the time it was exciting.
On those single track roads, and the first thing you're going to hit is a herd of sheep, and you'll be fine.
Yeah, exactly. But to your point, like, you're on your mission, so it's a good time to be protected, like Peacock said. So
yeah, sure.
Whatever that logic is. Yeah. Anyway, so after that, we ended up in Edinburgh. I served with Brett McCullers, which Brett McCullers is one of my favorite people. He actually, it's funny because I was telling both of you, like, I'm a pretty level-headed person, but man, we got into it a few times, and it's just because that's just who Brett McCullers is, and we argued a few times, but just a really good guy. He actually ended up living at my dad's house. He was one of the best men at my wedding, but then lived at my dad's house while he lived in Utah going to school. And just like Ren Hardy, like super intense, he just seemed like he was going to just explode at any minute. And I loved him to death. We had so much fun.
Can I tell you my story about Brett McCullers? And
yes, please do.
I want him to come on the podcast. So Brett, if you're listening to this, please come. But Brett was a greenie with McKay Lynch up on the Isle of Lewis when I was a zone leader, and there was an instance where they were down in Aberdeen, and we had locked our keys in our flat. And if you remember, the Aberdeen Elders flat on the cobblestone road was on the second floor. And I literally watched Brett McCullers jump and grab the brick edging of the window and pull himself up and then pop a window open and climb in. And I was like, this guy's unbelievable. That's like one of my lasting memories of Brett McCullers, because there's no way I was doing that. Just a mountain of a man and a good dude. So Brett, come on the podcast, please.
That is so funny. And I could totally see him doing that. He was always down to do anything like that,
Oh yeah. So funny.
Yeah, he's funny. And he had an interesting path to get here, because I think he was a convert to the church when he was like a late teenager, maybe 17 or something.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, he's from Florida, but kind of like it embodied that Florida man type thing, not in like the crazy way, but just like he's just a good guy. So
Agreed.
I love him to death. And when I was on social media, I haven't. I mean, I don't have like Instagram or Facebook or anything, but I'd always reach out to him and try to reconnect. But I know he's busy with family and whatnot. So
No, let's be honest. He's busy with his boat and fishing. That's the thing that I see him doing most days.
yeah, and good for him as well. He should be. I mean, no one can live in Florida in that awful heat unless you have a boat and you're fishing all the time.
Yeah, it's true. Brett, put your fishing lure down and come on the podcast.
Absolutely. And then I served with Andrew Harrison, or maybe it was Harris. Andrew Harrison Harris. Do either of you remember him at all?
No, I think he was after our time, if I remember correctly.
He might have been. He was an English missionary, but I mean, one of the quietest missionaries I've ever met, but one of my favorite. You know, we had a good time, and at the time, you know, we were both zone leaders, and then Quinn was an AP, Quinn Coford, and we would always try to joke around with him, but I'd make him do all the jokes because he's super awkward and quiet. But seriously, great, and he ended up at best man at my wedding as well. And same thing with him. Like, we kept in contact for years and years after. But I know he was English, but he lived in Russia for a long time. And I mean, I would love to see him on here at some point if we could figure out. It's hard because he has such like an average person's name, like Andrew Harrison. How the heck are you going to find Andrew Harrison throughout all the LinkedIn or Instagram or whatever? It's almost impossible.
It's true. It's very true.
Yeah. But I remember he had kind of a unique, and I hope he doesn't mind me telling this at some point, but he was pretty open about it. But he did have like an experience that he was out for a few months and then decided he didn't want to be here anymore. And so he literally got on a train and headed back home. And then he almost got home, called the mission home to tell him that he was home. And Fredericks basically convinced him to come back on the train, and he served out the rest of the mission and was great. So,
wow. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Hope he doesn't mind me telling him that, but I'm sure he won't. And then my very last companion was Tyson Bear. And I'm guessing that he is probably after both of your time, because I think he was only like 6 months out.
Yeah. We've heard his name though on the podcast.
Have you? Yeah.
Yep.
He was cool. He was from like a really like Clovis or Clover, New Mexico, like a tiny town, and just a straight up cowboy, you know, like had no business being in Scotland whatsoever. And I felt like I had like this somewhat of a Scottish accent, you know, before going home. I'm like, this is kind of cool. Like, I'll go home, I'll have this little bit of accent, like all the chicks will dig me, so on and so forth, even though I was already like basically engaged to my wife. Anyways, another story. But like totally beat it out of me because he was like just so like West Texas-ish sounding, you know?
That's
so
funny.
Yeah. But that's the whole thing. I loved every part of it. I was trying to think of my wife was telling me earlier that I was being really cute because I was sitting on our porch like writing down some memories and stuff. But I had a few things that I thought of that were just like incredibly that stuck out to me so much during my mission. And most of them, quite honestly, most of them are just like funny stuff that happened. I mean, certainly like we were out there, we worked really hard. We baptized a fair amount of people for, I think the average was what, like 2 baptisms per missionary per
like
mission.
0.8.
Yeah. One barely one a year.
Yeah. See, that's great. I ended up, I think with, I was trying to find my journal, but I think I ended up with like 12 or 13.
That's awesome.
We worked incredibly hard, but unfortunately, the things that stick out to me are the things that were just really funny that happened, you know? So
nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that. And I'm sure that both of you have some real good stories from that. But I remember was it Elder Kerr, he was a member of the 70.
Yeah.
Sterling.
Yep.
Yeah, we had him as well as the Fredericks at a baptism in Sterling, or it was one of the other ward houses close by. I can't even remember. But it was one of those like setups where the baptismal font was right in the gym, basically, where they open up the partition. It's just right there. It's not a separate room or anything. And I can't remember who the missionary was, but he's like, oh, it needs to be a little bit more full. And so he like got these cups to cover the plugs on the top step of the baptismal font. And so it was filled all the way to the top. And
no.
it's like, and so like Elder Kerr's there, the Fredericks are there, and we're like, we're just gonna send it, man. We're just gonna let this thing ride, and we're gonna baptize this guy right here. And he was a heavy set fella too. So anyways, they dunk him in the water, and water went everywhere, all over the chapel, all over the gymnasium. And so it was like Elder Kerr, the Fredericks, the newly baptized investigator, we were all like, on our hands and knees until like midnight.
Oh my God.
Water. It was like the most embarrassing experience of my life, but also it was so funny.
Oh. So you had a splash zone in the first couple rows, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I dare to say that I'm probably the only missionary that got that opportunity.
My gosh.
And I'll take it.
Goodness gracious, that's funny.
There's another missionary too that we served with. Again, after your time, I think when I went home, he was probably 6 months out. But his name was Elder Whetstone, and we told him that. Do you remember how they had the Pizza Hut buffets at like every single Pizza Hut location? They do like corn and tuna on pizza, which is so weird. I think what the hell?
Oh yeah.
But we told him that the record for a missionary for eating pizzas in one sitting at these buffets was 28 pizzas, and the dude had 29 pizzas in one sitting.
Oh my gosh! Whole pizza?
Yes, he was like a wrestler in high school. He was thick, and just I couldn't handle myself.
Oh my gosh!
Wow.
And did you guys go to, what was that Chinese restaurant? It was like in every big town. Jimmy Chung's or something like that.
Yep, Jimmy Chung's.
You guys remember Jimmy Chung's? Yeah. They would do that birthday celebration, but every time we'd go into one, we would always tell them that it was one of the missionaries' birthdays, and when we'd see them walking out, we'd all get up and go to the buffet besides that one missionary, and they would sit there and they would sing birthday songs to that missionary sitting by themselves. It was really great. It was really great.
I can't say we ever did that, but we did go to Jimmy Chung's.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I don't know. And maybe this was like one of Ren Hardy's party days, but I remember they'd have those little Jello things, and they were like Jello shots, and he would show us like how to like suck it up really fast. And I was like, this seems like some really frat boy stuff, But I learned how to do Jello shots on my mission, so that's fun. That's a cool thing.
That is Ren Hardy right there. He learned that at the University of Utah in a frat house.
Yeah, Sigma Chi.
That's right.
But no, all like really great experience. I mean, honestly, I don't know. It sounds like you two get together more than any of the companionships that I ever had on my mission. But
because of this.
So yeah, because of this, and I think that's great. And some of my best friends have come from this. It's funny, like Jack, I was telling Zach when we first got on that I live like right next to Brady Hess, which I found out like 2 weeks ago. And so we're planning to hang out and whatnot. But the neighborhood we just moved from up in Salt Lake, we actually lived in Matt Fissler's neighborhood. And so we were gym buddies and things like that. And it's one of those things, and I'm sure that both of you can attest to this, that it's just, you develop this really strong, odd experience, odd to anybody outside of Utah or the Mormon faith, that you just get to live and enjoy throughout your life. I don't know. I'm sure you two have
It's a brotherhood.
like a ton of talking. I'm sorry. I feel like I should,
No.
interject more and ask you guys questions. But
No,
Your
you-
episode.
yeah,
Here
this
every
is
time.
your name is on the episode, not ours, Brady. No, I can agree with you though, because you give consideration to like the percentage of missionaries that are out at any one time, and to consider that there were 5, 10, 15, 20 missionaries in each group that came to Scotland. Like the statistics of us that got that opportunity to serve in that land is so unique. So, when you talk to people and they're like, "Oh, did you serve a mission?" Whether they're in the church or not, you go, "Yeah, I served in Scotland," and they go, "Whoa, how was that?" It's a question you get a lot, right? Because they don't hear that from most people. Most of the time, it's some land South or Central America, or you know what I mean. So being able to share that, and having lived in those situations where you lived in a flat with no shower, or you flooded a baptismal font, like those are things that I mean, I'm curious to know if the water heater worked in the baptismal font, because we've heard that on this podcast more often than not, that it either was scalding hot or it was ice cold because the water heater didn't work. That was our experience in Scotland, and it's unique and amazing, and that's why this is so much fun to talk about it.
Yeah, no, it really is. And it's funny, as I've been listening to these podcasts, like everyone has related but very different experiences, and it brings up a lot of like really unique memories that I'm terrible at journaling. I kept journals as like I was a very dedicated missionary, and the only thing I journaled were like scriptures or like quotes that I read or whatever, but I didn't actually keep record of like my day to day and what's happening and people I've met. And what I've really loved about this is I've actually had the opportunity that as people talk about like places they served, I'm like, oh yeah, I've been there and I had this experience, and it's been a really fun experience, because I go back after I listen to one, and I'll tell my wife like, hey, I listened to Jeremiah Johnson, and he talked about this, and I totally remember that happened, and it's just, I don't know, it's cool, and I'm super happy as you're doing this. Way fun. Is the plan to expand it past our little group?
Oh yeah, I mean, so the earliest missionary we've interviewed on this podcast served from 01 to 03.
Wow. Okay.
And then the latest was like 2008 to 2010.
Okay.
So we haven't really gotten past the transition from the Scotland Edinburgh Mission to the Scotland Ireland Mission, apart from a few that maybe had somewhere between what transferred to 4 transfers at the end of their mission, where the mission was merging and in that transition period. So, but we'll see how it goes. I mean, we've got a lengthy list of past missionaries we want to talk to, and we've also talked about the opportunity of getting people from the homeland, getting people that are from the wards over there to come on and talk with us about how missionaries in their wards have impacted them. And there's a lot of different opportunities that we're exploring, but we're in the infancy. We've only been doing this for a year. We've got a lot more fun things ahead of us. It's going to be cool.
Oh, so cool. Yeah, so cool. I don't know, just a really unique experience, and I think that's a wonderful idea to get some of the members on and talk about their experience as well, because I'm sure they see a very different side than what we saw. But I mean, I saw everything as kind of a joke, and I hope that didn't come out the wrong way. Like I loved and worked really hard, but man, it's just a lot of fun. In saying that though, like I had no desire. I remember my dad wanting to like him writing me like a year before coming home. He's like, "Hey, we're gonna come out and like tour the country with you before you come home. And I was like, there's no way I am ready to go home. Like, you're putting me on that plane day one and I'm coming home. But anyways, but I would kind of want to stay a little longer.
So I wanted to ask you the question, Brady. You served the majority of your mission with the Fredericks. Did you have any particular favorite memories from President or Sister Frederick?
I was in Edinburgh for a while, and so I spent a ton of time at the mission home. So when I was a zone leader in Edinburgh with Brett McCullers and Andrew Harrison, and then with Tyson Bear, we spent a ton of time at the mission home, and I just and I can't. Was it Barbara, sister
Yep.
Frederickson? Is it Frederickson or Fredericks?
Fredericks. I thought it was Frederickson's for a long time too, but it's Fredericks.
Yeah, I remember President Fredericks was incredibly intense, and he frightened me because it seemed like this big, huge, burly football guy. But honestly, I don't have any one memory that really sticks out to me, other than Sister Fredericks was just a wonderful person, and any time that we were at the mission home, she would offer to cook us some food, and really I feel like the missionaries nowadays get a little bit of a cheat because they get to call home and talk to their moms and stuff, and I'm a huge mama's boy, and it felt like she was just my mom, she was there kind of supporting me in everything I needed. And it was amazing. I wish I could think of a specific memory besides that one where the baptismal font was overflowing. They're on their hands and knees for hours. But because we rode with them in their car over there, and on the way back, they're just like, yeah, that was a really great service. And I was like, that's BS. Come on, we all know that. It's 1 o'clock in the morning and you're driving some missionaries around. You still got another hour and a half drive home.
That's too good.
Yeah.
All right, Brady, you've mentioned some great missionaries as we've talked here tonight, especially your companions, which, as I'm looking at the list, we've got a number of them that we need to get here on the podcast. Is there anyone else that you want to call out? Even if you've mentioned them previously, that you need to call them out and say, come on the podcast.
Yeah. Chad Wilcoxon hasn't been on, right?
He hasn't.
100%. Chad Wilcoxon, still one of my favorite human beings. I would love to hear all of his stories, because I know that we shared a lot of, experiences together while we're there, but Chad Wilcoxon for sure is the one that I'd definitely point out.
Okay. Any others?
Besides my past, Andrew Harrison, which, who knows if we can find it, Chad Wilcoxon, Tyson Bear, which is really important missionary to me, and I'd love to hear some of his experience. Dave Staten. Those are my highlights. Cameron McDonald. I mean, those are all really good guys, and I'd love to hear more.
I love it. I have texted back and forth with Chad, and he's told me he doesn't feel like he has enough to tell. And I said, I think you're full of crap. So
he's got so much to tell.
I know he does.
He's got a million stories, so that's BS. I'm calling BS right now. And if he's listening, yeah, Chad, I'm calling you out, bro. Come on.
Well, and the other thing that we'll invite you to do too, Brady, is this is an opportunity to share this with those that you're connected with in whatever capacity. I know how we're connected, but share it with people, tag them, and make sure that they know that you are on here and they'll listen, and hopefully that'll spur them to come and participate. We love member referrals, as we call it.
Yeah. Okay. Love it.
Well, okay. Brady, thank you so much for taking time and participating with us. I mean, this podcast is not possible without awesome guests like yourself. So thank you for making time for us tonight. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
All right, brother. Well, we'll say goodnight to you. We'll say cheerio, and we'll express first and foremost our love to you. We love you. We're grateful that you're our brother in Scotland. Thank you for being part of all of our journey in that beautiful land.
Yeah, no, likewise. I'm super happy that we're able to talk and just go down memory lane, because it's a whirlwind of different emotions that I feel, and yeah, it's great. Thank you so much, you two. Seriously.
Thanks.
It's truly our pleasure. Well, again, we'll say goodnight to you, Brady. Cheerio, brother.
Yeah. See y'all.
All right, bye.